Good morning everyone, and welcome to day 8 of my 2-week challenge of uploading a video every single day for 2 weeks. The weather is absolutely beautiful today, but we are against the clock with some rain on its way, so I'm going to take you along with me as I do some chores in the veggie patch. I'm also going to be looking at my dragon fruit because I noticed that there might be some rust on it, and I need to do a little bit of maintenance on my worm cafe. So let's get started. So the tomato plants are seriously overgrown. They actually don't look too good, so I'm going to give them quite a heavy prune so that the fruit that's on there has the best chance of reaching maturity. This is a pile of where tomatoes go to die. No, just jokes. But something has been eating my tomatoes, and honestly it's my own fault because I have not been looking after this bed and maintaining it properly. Look at the size of this beautiful tomato. Completely untouched by the worms, so I've picked it early and will let it ripen on my bench. Alright, there we have it. The tomato bed looks so bare now. But what we can see is that there is enough airflow. So all that dead foliage has been removed, well, as much as I can. And I can actually see the fruit now. So hopefully no more worms will get into it. I haven't actually seen any more worms other than that one. So yeah, it looks really good. Cleaned up all the dead tomatoes. I've actually disposed of them properly so that we don't have any more sprouting up randomly in the garden. So just to help out these few tomato plants that are left, I'm just going to add in a bit of extra nutrients. So I'm just going to add in some vegetable and tomato food. Well, I didn't have too much left, so that didn't get me very far, but I do have some blood and bone, so I'm just going to add some of that, and fingers crossed it helps. Now I probably should actually water these plants, however I am expecting rain today, so I'm going to just hold off for now. If we obviously don't get any rain today, then I'll do it this afternoon. You will see that the beds are actually irrigated, so they do actually get some water throughout the week. The next bed I'm going to have a look at is my capsicum bed. I need to decide, am I going to pull these out and plant something else? I do actually have something else in mind, or am I just going to give them a good pruning as well and just see how much longer I can go with them. So I have a few seedlings that have popped up from one that I buried. There are still some fruit on here, granted they don't look too great, so I'll probably also give them a dose of blood and bone. So I know they don't look great, but I'm going to give them a couple of weeks, see if they will recover, and if not, then I will make the decision to actually take them out. You can see some fresh growth and a few new buds, so I don't want to give up on them just yet. So hopefully with the boost of blood and bone, we will see a bit of improvement. Right, I remembered now what these were, and I think it's called Mizuna. I'm not sure if I'm saying it quite correctly. Some sort of leafy green, and these are mini daikon radishes. I've actually never planted them before, well, either of these crops, so you'll have to just stay tuned and see how everything turns out. In this bed I've got one bok cabbage, never grown it before. I see I am struggling with slugs this season, which is really annoying, but I do not like to spray, so I'll just have to manually remove them. All the leaves that I'll be picking off now will not be going to waste. I'll feed them to the worms in the worm cafe. They actually need quite a bit of food, so this is actually perfect timing. These are two little plants that I might actually try and transplant. They're not going to actually grow amongst the big ones anyway, so I'm going to at least give that a try. It's the same thing I did with these ones, so one at least looks like it's doing okay. Probably also a bit too close, but honestly, it's better than nothing. So you can see these are being quite badly eaten, and I found the culprit, slug. Oh, another one. I really hope I'm not going to lose this crop because there's actually quite a ton of slugs on here, but I really don't want to put down slug repellent. I know one can put down eggshells, but I think we're a bit past that point. I seriously keep trying to grow green beans and just does not work for me. There's one tiny one. If anyone knows what I'm doing wrong or what I should be doing, please let me know. So I've gotten some worm food and I've pulled off probably like 10 slugs, which is way more than I was hoping for. But have a look. This one seems to be doing so well. It's slowly starting to tighten up. So fingers crossed there's no slug in there. So if you saw my update the other day, I think it was day 1, I talked about my fava beans, or broad bean as some people call it. I think potentially I planted them far too early. So they've been growing beautifully and we're getting lots of little flowers, but no beans. What I have noticed is at the base of each of these plants there are new sprouts. So I'm thinking I've got nothing really to lose here. They're not producing any beans anyway. I might just give everything a really good chop and see if the new sprouts will give us beans. Now I probably could have trimmed off a whole lot more, but I figured this way it gives maybe perhaps these ones that actually do have flowers on a bit of a chance. I just don't know. I've never grown these before, so it's a bit of a learning curve. You can see some new sprouts at the bottom. At least I've thinned it out a tiny bit in the hopes that they now have some space. I know this looks like absolute chaos and it's my snow pea trellis, and last season we actually like extended it and I did do a video on it. To be honest, while they do look ridiculous, it's not been detrimental to the plant at all. We're still getting quite a good yield. You can see they naturally want to kind of keep growing back up towards the sky, so they're holding their own quite well, and we don't grow a whole lot, so I'm actually okay with the way they look. I will just have to come in and harvest some later. We just don't talk about this bed actually. So this is my eggplant bed and I give it zero love and attention because we're not big lovers of eggplant. It just feels like effort to pull it out, to be honest, and it is starting to produce again. It's just unreal. This plant has been in since November 2022, so it's kind of a love-hate thing. I really don't know if I want to get rid of it, but at the same time it is taking up real estate in the garden. So I'm not sure. I think I'll have to sleep on it just a tiny bit longer. I might just prune back a bit. It's starting to compete with the carrots. I mean, we grow decent sized eggplants. This one sadly has already been eaten, so it'll just be worm food, and that's coming at the right time. As I mentioned, they do need food. I've got sweet potatoes popping up everywhere. I already showed you guys these ones. just pulled 2 out of the grass, and I've now just found another one hiding underneath the carrots. So hopefully we actually get some. I do think I'm going to have to open this bed up and have a look and see what's going on inside. I'm not going to open the whole bed, but I do want to have a sneak peek at the broccoli. Gosh, let me see if I can take you inside. The size of these leaves are incredible. Healthy, healthy, healthy. This is from memory Romanesco broccoli, and it looks like it's slowly getting there. This is the tree that's sadly dead. It was dead when we moved here, and you can see where Sven has chopped some of the branches off. And that's what we used as the base for our bird feeder. Okay, here are the dragon fruit. And I noticed it looks like a bit of rust. So that really has me quite concerned. I'm not entirely sure. So I'll have to do a bit of reading, but I do think I'm going to have to get something for it. On this particular one, it looked like it was just getting way too squashed, and it started rotting out at the back, so I might actually have to pull that piece off altogether. And as you can see, the rust kind of forms where we've got the string line. So to avoid any more, although there is a few spots, so to prevent it from getting any worse, I bought some plant ties, and really it's just like felt material. They didn't have green unfortunately, but I'm going to use this because I think it's a little softer. I'm hoping it's not going to actually cause any more rot, but I guess time will tell. So I'm going to very slowly and carefully remove some of this twine and then put on some of this felt. I feel like they were doing a whole lot better in the greenhouse, but anyway, we'll just keep an eye on them. So if you watched yesterday's video, when we put these structures in, we actually propagated a whole bunch of side shoots off these 2 dragon fruits. So I've got 3 pieces with me now today that I'm going to plant alongside this one because it's got a bit of space around the base. You can see that the tips have dried out quite nicely, which is what we're supposed to do. Okay, they look pretty good. But the last thing I want to do today is do a little bit of maintenance on our worm cafe. So let's go back over to the patio. So this is our worm cafe. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's actually looking a little bit too wet, but you can see the worms, and if I lift the little cover, we should see quite a lot of activity. It is looking very wet in here though, so I might actually get some brown material and add that to see if it'll help soak it up. So I can only assume that it's doing this because of the weather at the moment. I'm just going to add a Coles bag because I don't really have anything else on hand. I have actually done this before. The worms also need a bit of aeration, so I'm just going to mix this all in together as gently as I can, trying not to hurt any of the worms. I'm going to add some of the cabbage leaves that I pulled off the wombok earlier. So there are two reasons why I wanted to check on the worms today. So firstly, do they have enough food? And then secondly, did I actually need that second layer on top? Now looking at what's going on in there at the moment, it does not look like I actually need to keep the second layer on. The worms weren't actually making their way to the top because I think they still had quite enough food and resources in that middle layer. So I'm actually going to remove that top layer because it started stinking and going a bit yucky. But when the time comes, I will be putting in another coir block because while that was not in the instructions, I do think it will help give them a bit of a base. That is how we set up this cafe the first time around, and it seems to have worked a treat. Now I'm pretty sure some of you are wondering why we actually grow so little when we do have so much space. We do actually have a few fruit trees, and I've got a few things in the greenhouse that are still needing to come out and be planted. But at the end of the day, we are only 2 people. But I am still learning on how to garden, how to preserve food, and honestly, just keep up with the little bit I do have. Anyway guys, this is where I'm going to leave you for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching what I've gotten up to. Until tomorrow.